Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a fascinating and honestly kind of unsettling journey into the human mind. We're going to unpack this deeply relatable story that looks at a super strange phenomenon, how our modern, incredibly rational minds can just completely revert to a primal survival mode the second we're swallowed up by the dark. So if you've ever felt that sudden chill while walking down a dark hallway in your very own home, well, this explainer is absolutely for you.
I want you to really imagine this for a second. There is an hour of the night that belongs neither to the previous day nor to the next. It's this suspended instant, The world is just holding its breath, and even time itself seems to move on tiptoe. It perfectly captures that eerie, totally isolated reality of 3 a.m. It's a time that just feels completely disconnected from our normal waking life.
So that brings us to part 1, the suspended hour. This is basically phase 1 of our panic arc.
Picture this. Our protagonist is waking up way before dawn. His alarm? It just vibrates. The silence of the room is just way too delicate to break with a loud noise. And why is he up at this ungodly hour? He's driving for Amazon Flex. It's the modern gig economy calling in the dead of night. And this right here perfectly sets up the friction of our whole story. On one hand, you've got the rational, daytime mind, driving for Amazon Flex, making a few extra dollars, pure economic logic, right? But crashing right into that is the 3 a.m. reality. Absolute silence and infinite blackness. It's this stark contrast between a gig worker's incredibly practical needs and the heavy, almost imposing silence of his own house before the sun even thinks about coming up.
So, as he navigates his dark house, walking totally by memory so he doesn't have to turn on the lights and wake his wife, these tiny, small noises suddenly acquire what's described as the roar of a confession. That fragile silence amplifies literally every mundane sound: a squeaking door hinge, the clink of his keys, just the scuff of a shoe on the floor. In broad daylight, these sounds are nothing. They don't even register. But at 3 a.m., they are definite. It actually makes him feel like a thief trespassing in his very own home.
Which takes us into section 2, the world of shadows. Let's call this phase 2, the transition. The terrifying shift happens the exact moment the heavy front door latches shut behind him. Bam! The safety of the inside is gone, and the real night is out there waiting. Because as the story puts it, the early morning possesses its own arguments. During the day, this guy's completely rational. He doesn't believe in ghosts, he knows fear is just ignorance, and he's sure that reason always wins out. But at 3 a.m., out there with absolutely no streetlights and that motionless, thick air, that infinite blackness that just seems to swallow everything, actually starts to actively challenge his daytime logic.
Let's walk through the anatomy of this panic arc, step by step. First, as he's walking toward his car, he starts hearing his own footsteps echoing super dryly on the pavement, but they sound exactly like someone mimicking his rhythm right behind him. Second, his eyes strain into the void, and he starts seeing branches, but they look like figures. Third, his body reacts physically. He starts tightly gripping his car keys. And finally, step 4, he speeds up his pace. It's a rapid, textbook escalation of both physical and psychological panic.
And that brings us to section 3, the awakening of instinct. Phase 3, the threat.
This right here is the exact terrifying moment when the silence stops walking with him. It's this sudden, absurd, but totally undeniable certainty that he just isn't alone anymore. He stops, and the silence stops with him. And honestly, biology explains exactly why this happens. Long after our modern logic tells us we're perfectly safe, a really primitive region of our brain just wakes up. This is an ancient survival mechanism, one that literally evolved to detect hidden predators in the brush way before you can clearly see them. And remember, this exact same ancestral circuitry is hardwired right into your own head. It wakes up, entirely uninvited, the second the lights go out.
So the dark starts playing these incredibly aggressive visual tricks on his peripheral vision. Branches stop being branches, bushes abandon their stillness, tree trunks suddenly take on human proportions, and the shadows, they seem to slowly, unbearably slide into each other. But here's the kicker, it's only in fragments. The truly terrifying part is that the split second he turns his head to focus on these threats, they vanish. They just stay right out of reach, waiting for him to start moving again.
I want you to really notice this visceral detail. The metal begins to mark the skin. Time completely distorts for him right here. He honestly doesn't know if 5 seconds or a full minute has passed while he's standing there frozen. His body is completely overriding his rational mind. He's gripping his keys so fiercely in his pocket that the metal is physically digging into his hand. His brain is still frantically trying to spit out logical explanations, but his physical body, it has completely stopped listening.
Now, even as this panic mounts, and he forces himself to start walking again, he absolutely refuses to sprint. Why? Because running would be admitting he's actually fleeing from something. He's taking longer, much faster strides to close the distance to his car, but he won't break into a run. It's fascinating, right? To run would be to validate the totally irrational fear that the shadows are actually moving toward him. It's basically his mind's desperate final attempt to keep a grip on daytime logic.
Which brings us to our final section, the Refuge of Light. Phase 4, the climax.
He finally reaches the car, hits the button on his remote, and boom, the spell breaks. The physical relief is just instant. That sharp white flash of the car's headlights acts like a hard reset for his brain, instantly snapping reality back into focus. Just like that, the spell is completely shattered, and all those menacing, shifting shapes, they instantly turn back into entirely harmless trees and bushes.
Suddenly, everything has an explanation again. He gets in quick, slams that heavy door shut, and cranks the engine. The headlights completely pierce through and destroy the darkness. And there it is. The familiar, boring street reappears. The safety, the logic, and the practical realities of the modern gig economy world come rushing right back into his brain, successfully shoving that ancient survival instinct back into its dormant little box.
But right before he puts the car in drive, he checks his rearview mirror just once, to verify he was actually alone.
The street is empty, but he can't quite shake the feeling. What if the knight, offended at being discovered, just had enough time to hide before he looked? Keep that little psychological breakdown in mind the next time you turn off the lights in your house. Thanks so much for diving into this explainer with me today, and I'll see you on the next one.